Serious table flip is finally here, and Saitama is able to shatter the entire crust of a moon with one hand! And now they're fighting on a moon of Jupiter! That's right, Blast, with the help of his galactic crew, teleported Garo and Saitama off-world onto Io, a moon of Jupiter, and we're getting this war out in freaking space. I don't know how in the hell... Damn, I have corona, dude. I got COVID at Anime Expo. It's day 3 for me right now. Can you give me a thumbs up just for making this video and I have COVID? Man, I'm dying here. So I don't know how in the heck they're able to breathe out in space. They don't really explain that. I mean, Garo, I can understand a little bit more reasonably, but Saitama, is he just holding his breath this whole time? If that's true, then maybe this fight ends in the next chapter. It's very possible this fight is over in the very next chapter. I'm thinking 2 more. And Saitama's feats in this chapter, I mean, he is so much more powerful than we ever even imagined. Saitama even specifically says in this chapter, I'm going full power. And I think it's hilarious because in the last chapter, a lot of YouTubers, like myself included, were calling this his full power when he went berserk because, you know, Genos had just been killed. And people were like, oh, thousands of comments, people, oh, it's not full power. It's not full power. What are you talking about? Well, he says it's full power. Granted, he's only using one hand in this whole fight. And he says, one hand is all I'm gonna need for you. Talking mad smack to Garo, and I love it. This is Saitama who gets to go all out, who's completely pissed, and he knows that Garo is no match for him. Even so, at the end of the chapter, it kind of does look like he is actually taking damage for the first time. And I read some of the comments on Twitter, what people actually thought about this. You know, I've never seen black spit before, but I guess it's possible. I think Murata is trying to get us to believe at the end of this chapter that for the very first time ever, Saitama has physically taken damage and he is spitting up blood. I guess we'll get confirmation of that in the next chapter. Not 100% sure yet, but most of this chapter is just Saitama beating the living crap out of God Garo, and oh boy, does it feel good. Now, Garo has completely copied Blast's dimensional portal, dimensional gate abilities, and this goes further to prove that just how insanely strong he is. I mean, he's essentially got the Sharingan. He sees the technique once, he can instantly copy it. But the crazy thing about it is Saitama is able to kick it away. And there's another part in the chapter where he's able to grab the dimensional portal. Meaning, in my opinion, that Saitama literally does not obey the laws of physics. So let's start with the beginning of the chapter and go through because it's a long one, but it is a good one. I mean, this is peak fiction. This is the peak of One Punch Man. This is what everybody's been waiting for. We get serious table flip. We get a brand new ultimate move from Saitama. The strongest move we've ever seen out of Saitama ever. Omnidirectional serious punch, dude. And I don't know how this moon is still standing after that, but let's even get there. Well, by the way, Garo is like millions of times stronger than Boros. He's taking all these serious punches to the face, left and right, and he's still up. I mean, he's taking crazy damage, but he's surviving it. I mean, he's no longer One Punch Man. He's just God Man at this point. Cover page here, opposing each other, polar opposite fists. And you can see here that they're fighting out in space, out where Jupiter is. And you have the Eye of Jupiter, and I'm wondering, does this have any symbolism to the Eye of God? Maybe like, is there a god in Jupiter even, potentially? Because later on in the chapter, we see that on the dark side of the moon, it looks like the spine of God is actually inside the moon. And potentially, all of this started when Saitama got knocked into the moon. Maybe it broke some sort of barrier and allow God to start granting power to people or something like that. I mean, we could get an explanation like that further down the road. At the end of the last chapter, Saitama threw a serious punch, Garo copied it and threw a serious punch back, and here Blast is going to create a giant dimensional gate and try and teleport them away because he knows if these two punches clash, it's pretty much the end of Earth. So their punches connect in spectacular fashion. You can see this like giant black hole in space with just energy shooting out over Earth. Crazy shots here from Murata. I mean, really just insane cataclysmic end of the world type battle going on here. Now, Blast is saying the gate can't handle this much energy, and we knew that because in the previous chapter with his battle with Garo, he was saying that like the gates that he was creating to absorb Garo's attacks couldn't handle the overflowing amount of energy. And this is what we were contemplating, was like, how is Blast going to teleport out that much power if he can't handle Garo alone? And we see what happens here. The other galactic cadre come to Blast's rescue, and he says, "You guys," and he looks very surprised. So in the chapter 164 initial issue, we got to see a lot of these guys. We got Boros and this lion guy and this elf queen chick, and this is pretty much confirmation as they come in here to help Blast that they have essentially the same powers that Blast does, as Blast stated, the powers to manipulate the cosmos. As one of them says to another, to think another hero besides you could hold his own against one imbued with so much divine power. Just who is he? Murata wants to change the story, and instead of Blast being out in space fighting with these people, now maybe Blast knows of them, but I guess he's never even met them before, and they're just appearing last second to come help out. And you get this crazy sequence of the Clash energy trying to be absorbed by this dimensional gate, kind of like folding like a pie chart, and it appears to just like collapse and blast Garo and Saitama deep out into space. But that's when we see that image there of the dark side of the moon, and that is 100% for sure the spine of God, or maybe God's dead body. Maybe that's his dead corpse was sealed inside the moon or something like that. And I don't know, maybe every moon has a god in it or something. There could be some more rich story in here. The crazy thing about it is you see Earth, and then you see this like black hole literally like right next to Earth. Like you can't even see the stars in it. I mean, it's really cosmic and crazy the way that Murata is doing this, and I absolutely love it. I mean, this feels like I'm watching some state-of-the-art science fiction movie like in a manga. So they get blasted out, they land on Io, the moon of Jupiter, and I love this shot here of Saitama just standing up on the cliff looking down at Garo. What's really interesting about this is LYD, who did a fan manga of Garo vs Saitama, at the end chapters of his fan series, they end up fighting on Mars in an almost identical fashion. And I just think it's wild. Like, I don't know for sure that Murata is taking, concepts from fans, but with God from C. Emming Lab and now this, I mean, them fighting out on another planet, this is exactly what happened in LYD's manga just like a few months ago. So I don't know, but I think it's super cool. Like, I like that he does that, although I wish he would like give them some credit. We get a lot of colored pages in here, which are definitely appreciated. Now, does this have any symbolism? Saitama standing there in the middle of the eye of Jupiter. Is there multiple gods? Is there like a holy god and an evil god? Is the monster god like the devil? And then the holy god is potentially Saitama or some other entity altogether that made Saitama who he is. I think there could be a lot more to the story that near the end of the entire series we learn things like that. Interestingly, if you're wondering like, oh, maybe you can breathe on this planet. No, Io is like super radioactive and definitely a human cannot survive on it. So unless like Blast is like, oh, I transfused a bunch of oxygen in Saitama so he can live or something before I teleported him, I don't know how Saitama's breathing. I guess he just doesn't need air. I mean, literally, like, Saitama's feats are absolutely crazy. He's on, like, a highly radioactive planet with, like, minimal gravity, poisonous atmosphere and all this stuff, no oxygen, and he's just kicking ass with one arm. And that's when Saitama says, oh, well, at least here I can let loose at full power against a guy who can stay up. And Saitama says to himself, well, I may have finally gotten what I've always wanted, but I'm not even the slightest bit excited. And he tries to put Genos' core into his shirt and save it. Now, this is incredibly important because this means that Genos is not permanently dead. Because Murata is putting so much emphasis on this core of Genos, it is basically he's telling us that Genos is gonna survive. As long as Saitama keeps a nice grip on it, make sure it doesn't get damaged, he's gonna win this fight, give the core back to Dr. Kuseno, and bring Genos back, although I guess he's gonna be full robot at this point because his brain is gone now, but as long as we get our G-Boy back, that's cool. So Garo's saying, I don't know how this happened, but we gotta think of a way back, and Saitama says, shut up, that can come after I beat the shit out of you, bring it on, one hand is all I need for you. It's like, oh, you done messed up, Garo. You done messed up. Garo tries to create the portal. Saitama kicks it away, breaking the laws of physics, and then nails him with a punch in the face. Fantastic double page shot here from Murata, as always. The shots of Saitama in this chapter are amazing, as always. Just the foreshortening, the diagonals, showing so much speed and power. He's got Genos' heart in one hand, and he's punching Garo in the face with the other. I just love this. Now, as Garo's flying away, he tries to create a portal so that he can get behind Saitama, and he throws a punch at Saitama, but Saitama sidesteps it and yanks the portal, nailing Garo under the chin. Yeah, I mean, he is essentially breaking the laws of physics. He's like grabbing a black hole, like with his bare hands, and manipulating it. So Saitama's talking more smack to Garo, saying, forget your little tricks and come at me with your fists. Is this what you call ultimate martial arts? And I just love it. He's like, he's not even threatened at all by Garo anymore. And that's when Garo turns on his martial arts and basically goes on this crazy onslaught attack, teleporting through all of these portals and using every martial arts technique that we've seen in the series that Garo has had a chance to go up against. He just copies all of them. Roaring Aura Sky Rippling, Water Stream Rock Smashing, Exploding Heart Release, Whirlwind Iron Cutting, and he's doing this insane combo attack. I mean, God, I can't even imagine how hard it would be to animate this. And ending with a Nuclear Fission Gravity Knuckle. I guess all of this lands on Saitama, and this shot is so sick, man. This nuclear explosion on a moon of Jupiter with Jupiter in the background, and like the eye is always there watching. Jeez, man. And Jupiter does play some symbolism as well, because back when Psychos was taken over by, was fused with Orochi and got the power up and said she got divine power from God, she said that like she saw something that looked like the surface of Jupiter. So maybe it has something to do with, maybe there's some correlation there, but we don't know yet. It's definitely possible. And with the gravity knuckle nuclear fission, first it's a nuclear bomb, and then it sucks you into a black hole. And that's exactly what happens here again. Garo saying, I can let loose a barrage of ever-changing attacks from all directions. With my fists, timing is irrelevant, they're completely unavoidable. And that's when Saitama says, even I can do something like that. And he digs a hand into the ground, and you just know what's coming. So, back in Anime War Episode 5, God, I feel like this was like maybe 5 years ago. I gave Saitama the serious table flip. I did, you know, my version of it because it was out in the, so I think like, dude, honestly, I think people have been waiting for this for like 6 or 7 years. And we finally got it. I mean, like basically the length of my entire YouTube career has been leading up to this moment right here. And I love this sequence from Murata. I mean, you see this just like crust rising, the distance, like the way he does the diagonals with the distance of Garo, you can like feel it coming. You know what I mean? Like you don't see it coming. You can feel the power of this thing just starting to like explode at Garo. And look at this. It's like a gigantic wall of rock coming towards him. It's like basically a huge wave of the Earth's crust gets lifted up into the air. Now, I wonder if Garo can copy it, though. It's very possible, but I don't think he's going to. This shot is absolutely insane. I mean, the feats alone of what Saitama just did. One arm, I guess Sirius is kind of trying, but like he literally just tore apart an entire moon with the flick of his wrist. I mean, feats. Let's talk about some feats. Saitama is way stronger than we ever thought. And this sequence is pretty much like the webcomic. Garo is up there in the air, there's rocks everywhere, and he can't tell which way is up. And Saitama is essentially copying what Garo just did, but with raw speed and power. So, in a similar fashion to Speed of Sonic Sound, when he made his like 4 after images, and then Saitama did serious sidesteps and made like 100 or whatever, Saitama can copy like those kinds of techniques just with raw speed. And that's when he uses serious omnidirectional punch. And yes, this is like literally, let's see how many Saitamas are on here. I counted about 17. So let's say like 20 serious punches instantly. So if you ever wondered about consecutive serious punch, this is essentially what that is. Now he's able to dodge it at the last second because that would have obliterated him by going through a portal, but Saitama is coming through the portal like, where are you going, bitch? He punches Garo away and he just starts chasing him down at literal light speed. You get to see all those constellations like we had from the Flashy Flash Platinum-S versus Garo out in the sky. We get that sort of thing again, people just moving at light speed. Look at this colored image from Murata. I mean, just unbelievable. Like, this thing looks like golden coronavirus Omega. Basically, Saitama's moving at light speed all around the planet, punching Garo all around. I don't know how we can survive all this. I mean, it's pretty crazy that Garo is able to live. Garo is able to deflect a lot of the attacks and kind of like regain his composure. So he jumps through another portal, but he lands on the surface of Jupiter, stomps his head right into it. Like he lost all sense of direction and it kind of threw him off. And that's when Saitama lands a serious punch to the face. I mean, dude, this should kill him. Like, how is he not dead? So Garo says he's so strong, he's limitlessly strong. If that's the case, I'll have to copy him limitlessly until I win. So he copies Saitama's serious punch again, and then they trade blows. Okay, so it looks like Saitama is finally taking some damage. It's possible that Garo is able to hone the serious mode so much that he's somehow able to match Saitama, but I don't think so. I think this is probably pretty much the end for Garo. I mean, he's gonna come to the realization that no matter how strong I get, Saitama is literally limitless. Like, you cannot defeat this guy. His feats are through the damn roof. And I don't know if there's anything beyond serious. Like, is there full power mode? Seems like he's going all out. I mean, he went serious table flip into a serious omnidirectional punch. So, you know, it's crazy to me that Garo is alive right now, but I feel like, you know, he's definitely taking a lot of damage, and he's not going to be able to survive much longer. So I don't know how Saitama's going to get back. I'm assuming the Galactic Cadre will come and, you know, bring Saitama back, or Blast will. And I think it could be that, you know, we get the ending on the next chapter. Now, in the webcomic, some spoilers here, Garo goes through some more transformations at the end. I don't know if that's going to happen here in the manga, but it could be that, you know, Garo is not using the full power of God. Like, he only got a sliver of the power. Potentially, Murata could extend this fight by Garo just actually taking the full power of God at the end. And maybe Saitama still just beats him up, but damn, I mean, this chapter blew my freaking mind. Lots of amazing color pages, dynamic, like, space shots, and gee, it's like, what am I even reading? Like, the way that this story started to where it is now is absolutely crazy, and I just love every minute of it. I have so many videos to make just based on this chapter alone, so make sure you guys subscribe with notifications enabled. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.